Okay, so this video is only for the people who will be gone for TSA on Monday and Tuesday. So this is the work that you guys will have to do for those 2 days that you're missing. And I'll just go through the instructions here um, for you, and then also I'll go through these documents on for the Tuesday's homework. So on Monday, it says here, handout 1, check off whether you agree or disagree with the statements, and to read the documents titled handout 3 about socialism and capitalism. Use the information from handout 3 to fill out the chart on handout 2. So I'll click on that and show you what that is. Um, so first you will do this handout 1. You'll just read these statements. So like number 1 says, property and the means of production, factories, should be owned by businesses and individuals. And if you personally agree with that, check off agree. Or if you disagree with that, check off disagree. And just go through those 1 through 8. It should not take too long. Whoops. And then you'll see this handout. This handout is for these next two documents here. So first, before you do anything with this handout, you will read about capitalism right here, and then you will read about socialism. And then you will go to the chart, or maybe while you're reading those things, you will read those and then go to the chart and you'll read the thing about capitalism and you'll say, what are some positives I see about capitalism? And then maybe you'll think about what are some negatives I see about capitalism. And then you'll read the document on socialism and do the same thing. Maybe write down 2 or 3 positives and then 2 or 3 negatives you have about socialism. Okay, that's for Monday. You do not need to worry about anything else for Monday, but you might want to work on Tuesday's work if you're too busy on Tuesday doing TSA things. For Tuesday, this is a little more complicated. You will watch this video over capitalism and socialism documents. I will talk about those in a sec. And then there is a link for the Right to Learn. You will be doing a writing assignment that is on Classroom right now, I think. It's called Right to Learn. It's under the quarterly requirements tab in Google Classroom if you can't find it. There is a writing assignment there. The details for it all um, are on that Right to Learn site. So you'll use this video and how I describe the documents to help you with that assignment. So I will go through these with you and you will use those documents and what you know about them from the way I'm describing them to help you write your assignment. Wednesday, you will have time to write it and you will be able to come and ask me questions during that time on Wednesday when you're back because that is an early out day. So if you do have questions, you can come and talk to me. Also, if you have questions before Wednesday, this is my email right here. You can just email me about it and I will try my best to answer your question. All right, so these are you don't have to worry about this page. This just has some details about the writing assignment that are on that Right to Learn site. So the first, it says write an introduction in which you provide the historical background from which capitalism and socialism developed. That should be pretty easy. And the paragraph, you don't have to worry about this other part. You just need to write an introduction about how capitalism and socialism developed. Then you will write body paragraphs which describe the characteristics of capitalism and socialism and their respective impact on political policy decision making. So those documents that I have should help you be able to find out how capitalism and socialism have affected politics. Then you will incorporate quotes, so you'll take those documents that I will show you that are linked onto Google Classroom, and you will take quotes from them and describe to me how. So you may say, socialism affects politics because it makes it harder for people to sell and buy things that they want. Then you will have to find a quote from one of those documents I have and prove to me with that quote that is a true statement. So you'll say socialism makes free markets more difficult for people. And then you'll say this quote from Karl Marx uh, proves this. This is what he says, and that's how it makes free markets difficult. And then you'll write a conclusion where you discuss the political and economic factors that influence policy decisions. So by that I mean what in politics has changed policies. Like, have there been politicians who've said, uh, I like capitalism because this is why I like capitalism, and I'm going to make laws and policies that uh, put that into place. And also, how does American economy or the British economy maybe influence those decisions as well? Once we look at the documents, this will make a lot more sense. So we have Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. So these are socialist writings. This document is the socialist writings. These two people are kind of responsible for creating socialism. So these are important. Karl Marx uh, and Friedrich Engels came together and wrote the Communist Manifesto. That is probably a um, familiar book to you. The modern bourgeois, which means middle class. So the modern middle class man, modern middle class society has not done away with class antagonisms, and that means hatred between groups of people. It has but established new forms of struggle in place of the old ones. Modern industry has converted the little workshop of the patriarchal male master into the great factory of the industrial capitalist. So, modern industry, that means new factories. The creation of factories and the factory system has turned the little workshop the man who is the master of his own works, into the great factory of the industrial capitalist. Masses of laborers crowded into the factory are organized like soldiers. They are slaves of the machine and the manufacturer. So that means that the manufacturer now enslaves, that's in quotation marks, enslaves all these people by lording over them the fact that, hey, I'm the one who pays you. You are forced to do my labor or else you won't get paid. So that's kind of like slavery. Instead of rising as an industry progresses, they sink deeper and deeper into poverty. Owing to the use of machinery and division of labor, the work of the proletarians, that means the working class, so that's lower than the middle class, they're poorer, they have lost all individual character, and consequently all charm for the workman. He becomes a limb of the machine, and it is only the most simple, most monotonous, boring, and most easily acquired knack, skill, or ability that is required of him. So instead of being a skilled person, capitalism has turned someone into a part of a machine, someone who is boring and someone who is not very smart or skilled in anything because they don't have to learn how to work on anything. Capitalism has ruined skill and um, individuality. He has lost all individual character. Also, Friedrich Engels says, above all, the government, so look at that, that's politics right there, will have to take control of industry and of all the branches of production out of the hands of competing individuals, and instead institute a system as a whole that is for the common account good. So that means that is for the common good, according to a common plan and with the participation of all members of society. It will eliminate competition. Private property must therefore be abolished. And by that he means if everyone gets the same thing, if nobody has to compete for anything, if everyone gets the same amount of wages and works the same amount and they all get the same amount of food, we won't have any poor people. We won't have people up here like the middle class ruling over the people in the lower class, the worker class. And they will not lose their character because they will not feel like they are slaves. So that's what he's saying, is that If we are all the same, if everyone gets the same amount of everything, then society can progress and become better. And government taking control of industry is how we're going to do that. That's how the government, politics, has to take control of industry. Document 3 is a capitalist document. This is where all the capitalist ideas are. So, Adam Smith, in The Wealth of Nations, says some capitalist things. The sole purpose of all production is to provide the best possible goods to the consumer at lowest possible price. Society should assist producers of goods and services only to the extent that assisting them benefits the consumer. He, the consumer, intends his own gain, and he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was no part of his intention. By pursuing his own interest, he frequently promotes that of the society. So, when the consumer buys things, when he uses his freedom to buy things, as with whatever money he has, it doesn't matter how much money he has. Whenever he buys things, he promotes the society. So his own interest being buying something. So if he's interested in a product and he goes ahead and buys it, then he is promoting that society, because society assists producers of goods and services only to the extent that assisting them benefits the consumer. So society assists the consumer by also assisting producers of goods. So if society says, hey, this factory can produce things, that also benefits the consumer, because then the consumer can buy things. If there are no factories being supported, then that means nothing is being produced and nobody can buy anything. So the ability to buy something promotes society. According to this liberal and generous system, therefore, the most advantageous method in which a landed nation can rise up artificers or craftsmen, manufacturers and merchants of its own is to grant the most perfect freedom of trade to those craftsmen, manufacturers, merchants of all nations. So freedom of trade is something you should pay attention to. That's a very capitalist idea, is that they are free to trade to anybody and with anybody from anywhere. That is a very capitalist idea. And then from the theory of moral sentiments, the man of system is apt to be very wise. That means he's likely to be very wise in his own conceit, and is often so enamored, so in love with the supposed beauty of his own ideal plan of government. So that means he's so obsessed with how government should be acted that he cannot suffer the smallest deviation from any part of it. That means he's so obsessed with how he thinks government should go that he cannot even think of doing anything that isn't that. He seems to imagine that he can arrange different members of the great society with as much ease as the hand arranges the different pieces upon a chessboard. So he seems to think that he has control over society, just like someone has control over the pieces on a chessboard. He does not consider that in the great chessboard of human society every single piece has a principle of motion of its own, altogether different from that which the legislature might choose to impress upon it. So maybe he's saying communists think that they have control over a society. They think that people are as simple as chess pieces and that they move just like a chess piece would, and that he can move them with great ease, just like he can move chess pieces. But this is saying that society is not like that. Human society, every single piece has a principle of motion of its own. That means they're individuals. In a capitalist society, every single piece is an individual. That means they have their own interests and their own goals that they will follow. So that's a very capitalist idea, is the idea of you and I are individuals and we